Welcome into Duval Daily, presented by GenJag.com. I'm Jordan DeLugo. Thanks so much for tuning in here on Tuesday, November 5th. It is final day to vote. Make sure y'all get it done. But it's also NFL trade deadline day. 4 p.m. trade deadline has come and passed. Hilariously, the Jacksonville Jaguars dropped a press release exactly at 4 p.m. Eastern Time on the deadline that they had signed offensive lineman Dennis Daly and long snapper Peter Bowden to their practice squad and released Tanner Muse and Jake Funk from the practice squad. Obviously not funny for those two guys that got released, but, fans looking for and clamoring for the Jaguars maybe to make a move, whether that be trading a current player or acquiring a player. Jaguars just made a couple practice squad moves there, right? So signing a long snapper is interesting. You hope, obviously, Ross Madison's okay. Don't know what's going on there. We'll find out more tomorrow. But Jaguars inactive at the trade deadline here. Final day of the trade deadline. Now, of course, the Jaguars did make a couple of in-season trades already. We'll talk about those and talk about maybe a couple moves that they might have tried to make, but couldn't really make them in the end here at the trade deadline. So really appreciate y'all tuning in. If you enjoy the content, please like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. You can also check out genjag.com/shop, pick up some new Duval gear, become a channel member here on YouTube. So Roy Robertson Harris was traded to the Seahawks. Jaguars get a late round pick for Roy Robertson Harris. It made sense, for the Jaguars to want to trade Roy, who probably didn't really want to be here all that much. We'll put it that way, based on some things we've heard from inside the building. And a player that was getting overpaid, a player that was at a position where the Jaguars have done a lot of drafting and adding and subtracting over the last couple years, the interior of the defensive line there. So that one made sense to me. I thought they actually got good value back. I don't think they would have gotten like anything like that for a compensatory pick or anything like that for Roy Robertson Harris. And then the Jaguars also traded Cam Robinson to the Minnesota Vikings. Funnily enough, Cam Robinson will be in Duval this upcoming Sunday as the Jaguars host the Vikings. What is sure to be an absolutely riveting football game. Jacksonville Jaguars, Minnesota Vikings. It could be a good game. We'll see. Jaguars have been in some close games as of late, that's for sure. But Cam Robinson went to the Vikings, and it's a 5th-round pick that could become a 4th-round pick if he ends up playing a lot. And then on the Jags end, they gave up a 7th-round pick that, if he plays a lot, will end up just not being a pick at all. So some upside with the trade. I know a lot of folks looked at that one with the compensatory pick formula, and there's a good chance if Cam Robinson had made it to free agency, which he would have been a free agent following 2024, that the Jaguars could have potentially picked up a compensatory pick, maybe equal to the value of what they got in the trade, or maybe even better. But the Jaguars made that trade at that time because, again, they had decided to go with Walker Little as their starting left tackle to see what they can get out of him. Former 2nd-round pick who they just haven't started, basically because of Cam Robinson. So they decided to trade Cam because they tell Cam he's going to get benched, and Cam doesn't like that very much, right? And the Jaguars haven't confirmed that, but that's what happened. Cam Robinson did not want to be a part of this football team if he was not going to be in the starting lineup at left tackle. So Jaguars trade him. They get some decent value back for it. And Cam goes over to Minnesota, has a great first game by all accounts, and gets the game ball in the locker room after coming in and playing after only getting there Wednesday. Short week of practice, right? So congrats to Cam for all that. But Cam Robinson will be coming back to Duval. Josh Hines-Allen's going to have to get after it this upcoming weekend for the Jaguars against Cam Robinson. But those are the two trades the Jaguars made, right? They both made sense to me based on the situations. I think it was two players that were, quite frankly, disgruntled. Didn't want to be here. Two players the Jaguars weren't going to be keeping beyond 2024. Even if the current regime stays in place, I don't think they were keeping them beyond 2024. I don't think the current regime will stay in place. We've talked about that quite a bit. But yeah, that's kind of how I look at those two trades. And we're going to talk about a couple trades I think the Jaguars would have liked to have made, but they weren't able to. First, got to remind y'all to check out Underdog Fantasy for Pick'em, Best Ball, a whole lot more. You can use code Duval Daily on their easy-to-use mobile app or underdogfantasy.com, and Underdog will give you a free pick to use on your first cash pick'em entry, plus up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you deposit. This season, Underdog is going to be running a special promo or bonus almost every single day, like profit boosts. Pump up your winnings in just a tap when you apply the boost to eligible entries. There are tons of options for Jaguars, Vikings coming up, more rolling out. You can take a look at Trevor Lawrence, maybe Brian Thomas Jr. You can also pick a running back, and they've got vulture protection. Underdog does. If you're running back, if you pick them to score and they're not able to, say Tank Bigsby or Aaron Jones, Underdog will rescue your pick'em if they get vultured, right? That's Underdog Fantasy. Promo code Duval Daily to claim your new customer special of a free pick and your deposit offer. Must be 18 plus, 19 plus Alabama and Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncbgambling.org. Arizona 1-800-NEXT-STEP. That's 1-800-639-8783 or text NEXT STEP to 53342. New York, call the 24/7 helpline at 1-8778-OPEN-Y or text OPEN-Y 467-369. Shout out to Underdog Fantasy. So, as I mentioned, I do think there's a couple trades the Jaguars would have liked to have made. Also, just looking around the league, there's a lot of nice trades today where, like, had the Jaguars season been going how you hoped, had they been in a position to potentially be buyers here, there were players to be had. And even if the Jaguars had just won a couple more games at this point, right now they're 2-7, right? If they were sitting at 4-5, they could be in a position to be buyers, right? But instead, at 2-7, when it looks like your head coach ain't gonna last too long, doesn't look like your front office is gonna last too long, you're not gonna be big time buyers at this point. So that's frustrating. I mean, Marshawn Lattimore became available. You could have traded for him. If you had Marshawn Lattimore and Tyson Campbell at corner, man, that would have been something. Preston Smith, he became available as well. If you sign him to be your third edge rusher, you kick Eric Armstead, and a lot of good stuff, right? A lot of good stuff. But the Jaguars, in their current situation, it just didn't make sense for them to be buyers, obviously. And on the selling front, I think that they were going to trade Christian Kirk. I think they were. But injured, broken collarbone, out for the year. He was one of the most rumored and talked about potential trade candidates across the entire league. So Christian Kirk, I think if this regime is out, I think that Christian Kirk has played his last down as a Jaguar, which is very unfortunate. I mean, it was a good run here for him. Unfortunately, the last 2 years ended in an injury prematurely. But he was a good football player. Going to continue to be a good football player. Just don't know if it's going to be in Jacksonville. So that's one I think they definitely would have liked to have made. Trade him to a contender that needs a really good slot receiver. And then you also heard some scuttlebutt, some rumors from some folks around the league about Brandon Sheriff having some trade interest. And it's funny, you look around at Twitter, a lot of fans, a lot of people that cover other teams were like, yeah, this offensive line's a Brandon Sheriff away from being really good. And hey, I've been one of Brandon Sheriff's biggest defenders over the last couple years here in Duval County. A lot of folks have not been very kind to Brandon Sheriff, but the bottom line is he's tough. He's a leader. He's still a really good pass protector in the NFL. But why couldn't the Jaguars trade Brandon Sheriff? Cooper Hodges out for the year. Pretty big time leg injury, lower body injury. He suffered against the Eagles, unfortunately, and he was doing a good job, in my opinion, considering the circumstances. So Cooper Hodges is out for the year. So, I mean, you can't trade Brandon Sheriff after Cooper Hodges goes down because let's check out that depth chart, right? You don't have anybody that you feel comfortable with. And, hey, maybe if you still had Cam Robinson on the roster, starting at left tackle, Walker Little could have kicked inside and played some guard for you. But that's not the case. So, it would have been Blake Hance, maybe Cole Van Lannon as your only option on the interior. So yeah, after Cooper Hodges went down, I just don't think the Jaguars really had the opportunity anymore to potentially pursue a Brandon Sheriff trade. So that's this little trade deadline update for y'all. The Jaguars inactive at the trade deadline, but certainly have not been inactive when it comes to trading this year. Just prior to the season, traded Travis Gibson to the Seahawks, traded Roy Robertson Harris a little bit later on to the Seahawks, traded Cam Robinson to the Vikings. They'll see him this Sunday. That'll do it. Really appreciate y'all tuning in. If you enjoyed the content, please like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. You can also check out genjag.com/shop, pick up some new Duval gear, become a channel member here on YouTube. Y'all have a good one.